Greetings, friend, entrepreneur, and fellow business builder. I'm Marketing Master Jim Ackerman, and this is BizKaboom's Wednesday webinar for the month of October. This is the first Wednesday of the month. It is the new time for our webinars. Hopefully you guys have figured that out by now. We've moved, as you may remember, and in the not too distant past, we had them on the first Monday morning of each month. And we had it earlier in the day. And through our research, we found that Wednesdays is a day that people prefer to have their webinars. And we also found that the middle of the day is the best time to have the webinars. Of course, the challenge for many of you is, if you're on the East Coast, the middle of the day is past now. If you're on the West Coast, we haven't quite gotten to it yet. And the middle time zones, this does in fact constitute the middle of the day. Anyway, that's why we're here at the time we're here and the day we're here. And we do hope that it works for more of you than it has in the past. We certainly welcome your feedback on that. Look, today I'm going to talk about the importance of planning for the holidays. Now, for most of the folks who are engaged in this program, this is, we deal primarily with a lot of retailers. We also deal with manufacturers, wholesalers, service companies, and professionals. And this information will be important to you as well, but it's going to be even more important for retailers. And for those of you who aren't retailers, might take a little bit of interpretation on your part. I'm probably not going to spend the time to do that interpretation for those of you who are in the other kinds of businesses on today's webinar. But if you have questions, if you're not a retailer and you have questions about how can you take the principles that we're talking about here today and utilize them in your business, then by all means, you've got some free consultation coming as a member of the BizKaboom Alliance. Take advantage of it. Not enough of you do. All right, so let's talk about promoting for the holidays. Number one, you should do it. Now, this seems like a silly question probably to many of you, but the truth of the matter is some retailers look at the holidays as such an easy windfall that they don't feel like they have to promote it all during the holidays. These people are going to buy anyway. Why go through the trouble and headache and hassle to invite them into your store during the holidays when they're coming in anyway? If you send out a direct mail piece, doesn't that cost money? If you buy ads on the radio or TV or the newspaper or magazine or a billboard, that costs money. Why spend that money now when they're going to come in anyway? Well, I understand the question, but if you think at all any more deeply than that, you realize that it's more of an issue of make hay while the sun shines rather than just let it all happen on its own. In other words, you don't live in a bubble, okay? If you were the only game in town, if you were running a general store back in the 40s or 30s, and, if people wanted to buy something for the holidays, they had to come to you. You're the only general store, or you're the only jeweler, or you're the only clothing store in town, then that rationale can make some sense. Hey, they're going to buy anyway. It's the Christmas season. I don't have to advertise because they don't have any choices. They don't have the internet that they can go to, and there's no other competitor in town. If they want to go to a different town, they have to travel sometimes on horseback, but most of the time in a car that, only does 50 miles an hour. They've got to travel an hour to the next town or perhaps even further to get to a town that's big enough that's going to present them with any real meaningful additional opportunities to what they're currently doing. And so I'm the only game in town for shoes or clothes or jewelry or whatever it happens to be. I don't need to advertise during the holidays because they're coming in anyway. I get that, okay? But that is not the world you and I live in today, okay? You and I live in a world today where for most people, they have options in your town. I see Brian's on. I know, Brian, you might be the only option for an hour around yet in the jewelry business. But the truth of the matter is, for most of us on this call, your customers have options, and they have a lot of options, including the online option. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a little story. Okay, now this has happened to me several times, but I've gone into Home Depot to buy something, and Home Depot did not have it. I've gone into Office Depot to buy something. I might have told this story in the past where I went in to buy something and they didn't have it. And these are called big box stores, right? The whole reason they exist is that they're supposed to have it, right? They are supposed to have it. So what did I do? After several of these experiences, I said, the heck with it. I'm going to order it on Amazon. And so why get in the car and go to that big box store if they're not going to have it? Now, if previously I might have gone to an independent hardware store and gone in there and found that they didn't have it. And so my thought was, well, they don't have it. I'll go to one of these big box stores. I go to the big box store and they still don't have it. It's happened with Best Buy. It's happened with Shields and Cabela's. It's happened with Home Depot. And so if these big box stores, whose only reason to exist, the only reason I would choose them over a small independent person is they have something that I can't get at the other place. But if they don't have it, where am I going to go? In the old days, there was no choice. Today, there is a choice. And so I go online and buy it from Amazon. All right. You don't want that kind of a thing to happen in your world. People would still rather go out and buy stuff from a store if for no other reason that it gets them out of the house for a change. It gets them away from this blasted computer screen that they're so locked into. In fact, the research shows that direct mail is making a comeback in terms of its effectiveness as a selling tool. And one of the reasons is that people see the trip to the mailbox as a diversion in their day that takes them away from the computer. So people want to have these experiences. What have we learned about millennials? We learned that millennials are experiential. They value the experience. And certainly there's a certain kind of experience that happens while buying on the internet. There's a certain kind of experience that happens when you buy from a big box store. There's a certain kind of experience that happens when you buy from a chain store. None of those experiences are identical to or even equal to the experience of buying from an individual and independent retailer that brings something to the table that is different from all those other kinds of experiences. Okay? So let's take a look, first of all, at the kind of experience you can bring to the table compared to your competition. Now, I'm looking at the folks who are online now. It looks like many of them are jewelers. I don't see anybody that's not a jeweler, so I'm going to use jewelry as an example right now. Okay? So let's take a look at the options. Once again, there's the internet option. Now, there's a certain euphoria that comes from buying from the internet. I mean, I can go online and I can find anything that exists out there and I can buy it. And I can buy it today. They'll send it right to the door. And there's a certain rush that comes along with being able to do that. I know. I experience it. I do it myself. Okay? And everybody does. You do too. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All right? It's not the same experience, though, as walking into a retail store, an independent retail store. But let's juxtapose the retail store, the independent, against that big box store. So we're talking about jewelry. Let's talk about a big box store. That would be Walmart or, say, Fred Meyer. Walmart has a jewelry department. Sam's Club, Costco, they have a jewelry department. That's big box stores. Fred Meyer's probably got a more famous jewelry department. In other words, that big box store emphasizes it more, perhaps, than Walmart does. All right, but these are big box stores. So what do we know about those big box stores? Well, They have a limited supply of a limited quality of jewelry that fits into a certain price point. Okay. The people who wait on you at those stores are not jewelers. They're not jewelry experts. Now, they may have some product knowledge about what's right there in front of you, but they're not really salespeople. They don't fully understand the product. They don't understand the implications of crummy quality. All right. People who shop at those big box stores shop there for a reason, and that is low price. And there is a limit to the number of people who are interested in those kinds of offers, and those equal about 27% of the population makes price their number one criteria in purchasing. Price. Okay. In other words, price is ahead of quality and or value. Value is a combination of price and quality. It's a blend, if you will. Okay. There are some people who only buy for the price as a high point. I have a client who is a yacht retailer in British Columbia. Don't see her on there today, but she deals in $1 million yachts, and she and her boss are trying to market these multi-million-dollar yachts in some cases. And they have a lot of folks who come in from China. These are rich aristocrats, or in some cases bureaucrats or executives from China who have all kinds of money, and they want to buy based on brand name and the higher expense. This is what they told me. Okay, because they have tons of money. They want to shelter it, put it away, make sure it's protected at whatever level they can from whatever the government challenges are that they face in their world. And they don't have a lot of knowledge about quality in things, so they come and buy the highest priced item with the greatest brand name, and that's what they're looking for. Well, that group of people, small though it may be, is not going to shop at Walmart or Fred Meyer's. Okay. But there's something else that you should know about that big box store, and it's something that they share with the chain store. And so I'm going to talk about the chain store, and then I'll bring together this key and most important difference between you as an independent retailer and the chains and the big box stores, and for that matter, the internet. Okay. We've talked about the big box. Let's talk about the big jewelry chains. And if you're not in the jewelry world, it could be the pet market. Okay. Any retail market basically deals with the same kinds of things. And so you go into a chain store, the level of quality might be a little higher than the Fred Meyer Walmart type person or product. The knowledge of the salespeople may be somewhat higher. Certainly their sales skills are likely to be higher in the chain store because they are highly trained. Training is a big piece of the equation in that store. Nevertheless, you are probably going to be dealing with folks that are college kids trying to get their way through college, don't see jewelry as a career. Now, there's some people in some of those chain stores do in fact see jewelry as a career. But a lot of the salespeople won't be like that. They will be better trained. They will have greater product knowledge. They will be dealing with a higher quality of jewelry, and maybe the highest quality of jewelry, even in some of these chain stores. But the level of knowledge that they have is not going to be that of you as an independent, right? And probably let's hope their level of skill is not as high as you as an independent, although because they're trained on a regular basis, and you may not be training on a regular basis, which is a choice on your part, by the way, you may find that these people are quite skilled, in fact, in selling. All right. You also may find that they're less scrupulous than you might be in the way they present and sell their product. And all of that comes from the top down, okay? Most of what they do and how they do it is prescribed by upper management. And when I say upper management, I do not mean in most cases the store manager. I'm talking about upper management, the umbrella level of management, the director of sales training for the whole chain, not just for that particular store. That particular store may or may not even have a sales manager. It might be left to the general manager to take care of all this stuff. So let's take a look at these three business models that we've talked about: the internet, the big box stores, and the chain stores. We've talked about some of the differences between these three. Let's talk about a key similarity that results in you having a tremendous advantage over them. And the key similarity is they have no flexibility. They cannot do anything special. The internet, it's all built in, pre-thought through, and pre-programmed. It is the way it is. You go online, you place your order, or you don't. They may or may not have some kind of a follow-up system to remarket to you if you don't, or get you back to their site if you don't. But nevertheless, whatever they've got is what they've got. It is what it is. There's no flexibility. They don't run specials. If they do run specials, it's occasional. They don't make any offer because the very existence is an offer, once again, based on price. When you look at the big box stores and the chain stores, the same thing is true. They have very little to no flexibility whatsoever. At Walmart or Fred Meyer Jewelers, they probably have no flexibility in making any kind of a special offer. The jewelry department is not advertised as a general idea of, hey, we're going to run some jewelry ads in the paper or whatever it happens to be. You may see billboards for Fred Meyer Jewelers. We have some in our town. All right, so there might be some advertising going on that way, but specific specials, special events, those kinds of things don't happen in the big box stores. And the manager of the jewelry department, if there is such a one, has no real power or flexibility to implement any of that. They have no power or flexibility to respond to whatever you might do to advertise. They are not, even if they're the manager of the jewelry department, they are not upper management in the company or even in the store. They're mid-level or below, a low-level manager. And they have real, they have power to schedule people. And that's about it. May have some control over the level of training that those people get. In the chain stores, it's the same thing. The manager of the chain store is a middle manager. He might be the head honcho in that store. But in the context of the chain, he is a middle manager, and he does not have power to do much of anything at all. It's all handed down from the top, and he's got to live with it. Whatever advertising they do comes from the top, and he's got to live with it. If you get Kay Jewelers' holiday flyer, it's probably the same holiday flyer that they're sending out across the entire country, with the same offers for the same product at the same price points, and that manager has no control over anything. In other words, what I'm saying is this: whether it's the internet, the big box stores, or the chain stores, they cannot react to your marketing. They certainly can't react in a timely fashion if they could react at all, and in the greatest number of cases, they're not reacting at all. They won't react at all. They're not paying attention to you, the little guy. And even if they did, they would have no control over any way to react. And as important is my point that they're not even paying attention to you. They're not looking at what you're doing. The management of that store could care less about the competitive situation because it has nothing to do with them, and he has no control over how to respond to it. And this gives you a tremendous advantage. So that is point one. Recognize that one of your advantages is that you can do things from a marketing perspective that none of your big chain competitors can do. And that gives you an advantage. So I want you to keep that in mind as point one. Now, point two is it's even more important perhaps, and that is, as you create your holiday promotions, you must think like a customer. And this is the biggest challenge I face with my clients all the time is getting them to think like a customer. The easiest way to do that is put yourself in the shoes of somebody looking at holiday promotions from some other kind of industry or retail business. Okay. In other words, you may own a jewelry store, but you buy clothes. And you may buy clothes from the internet, the chain stores, or the big box stores, just like your customers buy jewelry from any one of those three sources or you. Okay. So the fourth option, buying clothes, is an independent clothier, right? So internet, big box, chain, or independent clothier. So what motivates you to buy during the Christmas season from any one of those four kinds of clothiers, clothing suppliers, retailers? Okay. Well, if you just sit there and say, I buy my clothes from the internet because of the convenience, and that's the motivation, that's great. Okay. Is that also the motivation of the bulk of your customers, or the kind of people you want to be your customers? If it is, then you must craft a promotion that takes in the convenience of what you're selling. How can you make this convenient to the customer? One way you could do that, for example, is don't make them come to the jewelry store at all. Take the jewelry to them. Okay. If convenience is a huge motivator for your customers, if thinking like a customer reveals that one of the biggest motivators for them is convenience, then be more convenient than any of those other competitors, including the internet, by taking the jewelry directly to them so they can see, feel, touch, wear, try it on, but they don't have to leave their store. Now, is the internet convenient? Well, some people would say so, because all I've got to do is go online and order it, and it's shipped right directly to me. Well, that's fine for clothes, but you still have to wait the week it's going to take to get there, or else pay additional to have it shipped. Okay. And in the case of jewelry, for example, and many of the other things that you folks might be selling out there, wouldn't it be better to have somebody come to your door? And you could come to their home and do it, or you could go to their office and do it, for which they may be willing to pay a premium because it saves them time. In other words, many executives see Christmas shopping as a hassle, a headache, something that must be done, but really destroys their productivity for some number of hours while they go and take care of it. They don't see it as a joy necessarily. But if you could come to their place of business with a pre-selected collection of jewelry that they've given you information on might fit the needs of their loved one that they're trying to give it to, or loved ones, that's convenience. And they may actually be willing to pay a premium for the privilege of doing it that way, as opposed to them having to get away from the office, go downtown or across town or even next door and spend an hour figuring out something that they're not comfortable with, that they don't know that much about. Okay. So yeah, if you think like a customer and you have enough customers that would fit into that category of being convenience primarily motivated shoppers, then by all means start a concierge service. It could be a year-round thing, but you could launch it during the holidays and see what kind of reaction you get. Now, we'll get to the promotion of of the service itself in just a minute. But the bigger issue right now is beginning to think like a customer. Okay. What other things motivate your clients? Well, certainly they want a good value. Now, look, I'm assuming, and this may be an assumption, you may be selling on the basis of low price, and you may be able to compete with the internet, with the big box stores, and with the chain stores in terms of price. Most independent jewelers can't, but maybe you are. And if you are, that's great. Go ahead and do that. But more often than not, the jewelers I work with in particular, and I'm pretty sure Paul probably feels the same way, the jewelers I work with are selling on value, not on price. All right. They have a higher quality of product in the first place. They have a higher quality of services rendered in the first place, all of which justifies a higher price. All right. However, customers often don't understand that all those things have to contribute to the price. And if you don't educate them as to the difference between you and the competition, those big box stores, the internet, and the chain stores, the difference in quality of product and quality of service, they will just feel like a jeweler is a jeweler is a jeweler. So why don't I go get it where it's the cheapest? In other words, you have to convey the value in the things that you do. Having said that, and not saying that it shouldn't happen during the holidays, during the holiday seasons, people, let's face it, are kind of bargain conscious. And so they're looking for price deals, or they're looking for value packages where you can put together something that will appeal to them. Now, if you're like the majority of jewelers, you may say, well, what can I do as an offer that would be compelling to people and get them to come in today? In fact, I have had 2 jewelers in the last 2 days say exactly that to me. I need business right now. What can I do to get them in the door today? And there's a very limited number of things that you can do along those lines, okay? And they really boil down to 2 approaches. One is discounts, and the other is value-added offers, okay? So if I'm thinking like a customer, and I realize that customers during the holiday seasons have a lot of money to spend on a lot of gifts for a lot of people, so they are specifically looking for great value or bargains, then I'm going to have to do something with a discount or a value-added offer, okay? So point 2 is think like a customer. All of which leads us to point 3, which is as you plan your promotions, base those promotions on a compelling offer. And 10% off is not a compelling offer. 10% off is not a compelling offer. I can't say it enough. 10% off is not a compelling offer. Okay. You must come up with something better than that. And again, if you think like a customer, think about yourself or your spouse going to buy clothes or shoes. We see these beautiful black high-heeled pumps at Nordstrom for $200. Normally, $450. Is that a compelling offer? Would your wife jump in the car and drive across town to Nordstrom's in traffic to get an offer which is 55% off or 60% off? Yeah, probably would. Probably would. Would she do the same thing if the pumps were only 35% off or 20% off? Well, that's the key question you have to ask yourself regarding your own customers. What is it going to take to get them out of their houses, into a car, drive a half hour across town in traffic to come to your store and buy what you have to offer? And I'm here to tell you 10% off won't do it. 20% off may begin to pique people's interest. 25% to 33% to 40 or 50%, then you get into places where it makes more sense for them to do it. They're going to be more likely to make a move if they see those kinds of discounts. But then how do you make any money? That's tough. You got gross margins of 50%. If you got gross markups of 100%, you give somebody 50% off, you've just eliminated your entire margin. All right. So maybe that's not a way to go. By the way, you do realize, don't you, that when somebody comes into your store to buy something, you will have solved one of their challenges that they've got in their life, but they probably have more. They may have 2, 3, 4, or 5 different gift-giving challenges that they have to deal with in the holiday season. And therefore, you can upsell and add-on sell and take care of all those needs, but you have to plan for it. You have to plan for it. And you make a compelling offer that's designed to get them into the store. And once they're in the store, you make your real money on the add-ons and the upsells that go along with that. That may be an advertising strategy. But I want to talk for just a minute about the concept of the value add for a moment. What constitutes a good value? All right. If you say 33% off, let's take that. We're going to save you 33%. That's a third. And you offer a discount on a $1,000 item. You're now going to sell that item for $6,600. Now, that's a heck of a bargain. It is a heck of a savings for people, okay? On the other hand, if you're going to take $3,333 out of your own pocket, and that's what a discount is, right? A discount literally takes money out of your pocket. If you're going to sell it for $1,000 and now you're only going to sell it for $6,666, you just took $3,333 out of your pocket in cash. What if you took that same $3,300 or a fraction of it and bought them something that you pay wholesale for, that would have a retail value that they could appreciate at twice what the wholesale value is, okay? So instead of giving them 33% off, what if you only took $2,500 and gave them a gift that cost you $2,500 but has a perceived retail value of $5,000, okay? So you have a $10,000 item. Is that what I started with, 10,000, or did I start with 1,000? Well, let's go with the 10,000. Oh, let's go with the 1,000. You guys, probably that makes more sense to you. So let's go with a $1,000 item that you were going to give them $333 off on. Let's take $250 and buy a $500 gift for them. So now they pay you $1,000, but they get $1,500 worth of value. Now, if you're a customer, think like a customer. If you're a customer, what would you rather have? An item for $666 that has $1,000 value that you pay $666 for, or would you rather pay $1,000 and get an item that's worth $1,500? You see what I'm saying? Okay. For a lot of people, not everybody, but for a lot of people, I can get a $1,500 value for $1,000, still 33% off, right? Still saving a third. Okay. I can get a $1,500 value for $1,000. That's a lot more compelling than getting a $1,000 item for $633. All right. So that's what I mean by thinking like a customer and value adding. Okay. Now, what could that be? You've got a $1,000 ring, for example. Could you throw in the matching earrings and bracelet for $250 out of pocket to you, but $500 in additional value to them? That's the kind of thing that you want to think through. And I simply believe that value adding is more compelling than discounting in most situations. All right. So if you're thinking like a customer, think through, and by the way, doesn't that work out better for you? You were going to sacrifice $333. Now you only have to sacrifice $250. If you went ahead and sacrificed the $333, you could buy them something worth an additional $666. Now you have a $1,666 value that they can buy for just $1,000, and it's even more compelling. But my point is it necessary? Could you lower your exposure? In other words, the amount of money that you're going to take out of your own pocket in order to make a compelling offer to somebody and actually come out more profitable by doing so and have a happier customer at the same time. These things simply have to be thought through before you worry about what the advertising is going to look like and say. All right. Now, let's now talk about the promotions themselves and how they shake out. A lot of different ways to do it. You can certainly do events, okay? And you should. Everybody who's a retailer should have, during the holidays, some kind of a private sale. And I get resistance to this, and I don't exactly know why. Now, and here's the reason why you should do it and why I have trouble understanding the resistance. Who are the easiest people to sell to? Your existing customers. They already have a relationship with you. They've already spent money with you. They've already had a good experience, and they already trust you. It's going to be a lot easier to get existing customers to come back through the door to buy something else than it is to go out and try to get new customers through the door. You can purchase those additional purchases with a private sale at wholesale rather than retail rates. In other words, if I go spend $1,000 on advertising on the radio, I'm advertising to the masses out there. Some people are outside of my buying area, my area of dominant influence, my geography where I get most of my customers. In fact, most of them are probably outside of that geography. But we're spending that money to advertise to them anyway. All right. And if anybody comes in off of that ad, let's say 4 people come in and I spend $1,000, it costs me $250 to get those people to walk through the door. Now, it doesn't matter who those people are. In other words, they could be brand new customers that walk through the door. It costs me $250 each to get them to come through the door. Or they could be existing customers that came back because they heard my radio ad. It still costs me $250 to get them to walk through the door, each one of them. Okay. If 2 of them come in that are new customers, great. I got 2 new customers that cost me $250 each. If 2 of them are coming in as existing customers that heard my ad on the radio and therefore came back because of it, it cost me $250 to repurchase those transactions. And that is not good. That is not a good amount. The $250 to get the new customers to come back, to come through the door in the first place might be an okay deal, but it's definitely not an okay deal to spend the $250 to get the existing customers to come back and buy again. Why? Because we could have gotten them in the door for $1 or $2. Okay. Or maybe it cost us $50 or $60 to get them to come through the door, but it's a lot cheaper to get them to come back through as existing customers using direct mail, email, telemarketing, smoke signals for that matter. But that's a joke. But the point of the matter is, it's a lot more powerful to get them to come back at a much lower cost of acquisition. They're probably going to spend the same amount of money as they would have otherwise. Okay. So lower the cost of acquisition automatically raises profits. And if you're used to spending money on regular advertising, traditional advertising like radio, TV, newspaper, magazines, direct mail that goes to the masses, marriage mail, billboards, all those kinds of things, and you spend that kind of money, it's costing you anywhere from $75 to $150 to get somebody to walk through the door again for a repeat purchase. You can use the direct mail, email, and telemarketing techniques to get to come back through the door, and maybe they come back for $25, $15, $10. Okay. In other words, you leverage your marketing dollars by going directly to your existing customers. This is why you should have a private sale. All right. Now, how do most people conduct private sales? How if the local K's Jewelers or Diamond Warehouse or whatever it's called is going to have a big event, how do they normally advertise the big event? They send out a postcard. How does that work? Not very well. Now, that doesn't mean it isn't profitable for them. It doesn't mean it can't make money for them. But the cost of acquisition of getting that existing customer walk back through the door using a postcard is more often than not always, but more often than not, more expensive than if you actually send them an envelope invitation that includes the envelope, a card inside that has a formal invitation, and a 2-page sales letter that goes along with it that tells them the kinds of deals they're going to get and makes them feel special because of the nature of the invitation that you sent. Okay. Now, again, you're still going to have the great values. You're going to have to think through before you worry about writing that sales letter or developing that invitation. You still need to have the offers nailed down, because the best invitation in the world isn't going to work with a 10% off offer. It just won't. Okay? The offer must be compelling first, but then it's how you deliver that offer that's going to have the greatest impact. So what can you expect by comparison by using this approach to getting your existing customers back in the door versus the other kinds of approaches? Well, if you're going to send out a postcard, you're usually looking at a fraction of a percent to maybe 1% to maybe as high as a 2% response rate. Okay. So if you send out 1,000 postcards and you get a 2% response rate, that means 20 people are going to come to your event. 20 responses. Okay. Now, again, you might be satisfied with that. It could be very profitable to do it. On the other hand, we've seen response rates to the kind of package I've talked about, envelope with card and 2-page sales letter in it. We've seen response rates at 10%, 15%, 20%. Is that it? No, we've seen response rates 34%, 60%. We even had one person do an invitation event like this where they got an 84% response rate. And believe it or not, and it's only happened once, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. And this was not for a jewelry store. It was for a clothing store. But we had over a 100% response rate. Now, how do you do that, for crying out loud? How do you send out 500 invitations and get 1,000 people to show up? Well, it's not that hard. We simply put a line at the bottom that said, you know, if you have a special friend you'd like to bring along, it's okay with us. And they did. Okay. Now, again, that's only happened once. And the 84% response rate only happened once. Okay. The 33% response rates happened a few times. Okay. 15, 16, 17.4% response rates, 12% response rates, 10% response rates are relatively common. Okay. Certainly 4, 5, 8% response rates can be quite common. Now, there is a caveat to this, and it has to do with how you've trained your customers in the past, how you've treated them in the past, okay? If, for example, you've got a nice customer list of 5,000 people, but you only go out to them once a year and invite them to come back and buy again, then the odds of getting these higher response rates actually isn't as good. You've trained them that, hey, I only expect you to come back once a year, and that is in the form of a catalog that I send you at Christmas time. If that's what they've come to expect from you, that's what they will continue to expect from you, and getting this invitation in the mail will be different, but not necessarily received with the same kind of enthusiasm it would be received if you regularly reach out to them anyway. In other words, if you had trained them over time to consistently do business with you, believe it or not, they're going to have a higher response rate to the fact that you consistently ask them to do business with you again. More people will act more often if they're asked more often. So What if you haven't? What if the sum total of all you've ever done for your holiday promotions has been that postcard, or has been that annual canned catalog that you get from one of the providers of gemstones that send out these same old catalogs? I'll get into that in just a minute. And now you're going to try to do something different. Well, there's good news. Although the odds are that you won't get as good a response as you would have gotten had you consistently been promoting to your existing clients throughout the year and years, you are still likely to get a better response than you would from the normal approach, and that you would from the general public. In other words, if you send out everyday direct mail in the form of a postcard to everybody in the 2 zip codes immediately surrounding your store, yes, you're going to look at a response rate in the fraction of a percent to 1% to 2% response. If you do this kind of a letter package to your existing customers, but you have never done it before, and in the past you've just relied on that same every door direct mail to show up on the doorstep of your existing customers, or that catalog to show up along with the rest of the public on the doorstep of your existing customers, the good news is that this letter approach is still likely to outpull those other approaches. And it may be a 50% increase or a 100% increase or even a 200% increase. In other words, if you're getting a 0.5% response from the postcard, you might get a 1% or 1.5% or 2% response to the letter. If you're getting a 1.5% response to the postcard or the catalog, you may get a 2.5% or 3% or 4% response to the letter. It's not going to be as dramatically overwhelming necessarily, although at the end of the day, the results in terms of sales may be quite dramatically overwhelming. But you just need to know going in that if you have trained your customers not to do business with you on a regular basis, you're going to have to untrain them and retrain them to do it differently. That does not mean you should not do it. That does not mean you won't be mildly disappointed in the results the first time you do it. It does mean that you should get in the habit of going to your existing customers on a regular basis, minimum 6, maximum 12 times a year, and retraining them over time that this is now the way we do business together. All right? So let's take a look at what we've looked at so far. Number one, we've looked at the advantage of flexibility. You can outthink and outpromote your internet, box store, and big chain competition relatively easily by doing things differently than the way they do them. And you can even be smash mouth with them in terms of drawing a distinction between your business and their business directly, and they will not react to it. They won't do anything with it. They may not even know that you've done it because they're not paying attention. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. So you've got the advantage of flexibility and creativity and uniqueness on your side. Number two, we talked about thinking like a customer and recognizing that you must put together offers that would be compelling to your mother or your spouse. Okay. Now, if you're my kids, my kid's mother is a huge bargain hunter. She thinks it's a big deal to save a buck. And you know what? She's right. I have 9 kids. When they were growing up, it was necessary to save a buck. Okay. So money was a primary motivator for her. She might be one of the 27% of people who think price first. But your customers, think about your customers. Are they motivated by price or are they motivated by value? And we talked about the kinds of offers you must come up with. And then the third thing that you need to come up with is the way you present it to them. And that may be directly to your existing customers first. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go to the general public. So let's talk about those kinds of promotions and those kinds of offers. And let's talk about a couple of other things that you might find useful. Okay. So if you're a jeweler, you can do this. If you're not a jeweler, you can still do it. And that is go to jewelersmarketinggems.com and look at some of the holiday promotions that we have here. And I mentioned these last month, but I want to mention them again. Okay. What about a holiday gift card promotion? Now, everybody has gift cards, but they're all the same, and they're not a bargain, and they're not a value, right? They're not a bargain and they're not a value. I'm going to see if I can pull one of these up for you in just real quick order to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see. Graduated gift card program. I'm going to show you this and share it on the screen so you can actually see it. And I hope the screen share will work correctly. All right, so there is that. And now I'm going to do screen share, this one. Yes. All right. Now, again, if most businesses, all the chain stores, the internet doesn't do it, but you can buy a Walmart gift card, and you can buy a Kay's gift card or a Jared gift card, and they're going to sell it to you at face value. In other words, you're going to pay. If you want to buy a $50 gift card, you're going to pay $50 for that gift card. If you want to buy a $200 gift card, you're going to pay $200 for that gift card. If you want to buy a $500 gift card, it's going to cost you $500. And therefore, very few people buy gift cards. Why? Because they find a better bargain somewhere else. If you're offering something at your store at 20% off, or if you're offering something in your store for $1,000 but giving $1,500 worth of value, that's a better deal than any gift card, paying $500 for a $500 gift card. But if you recognize the dynamics of gift cards, and if you recognize that the goal of offering the gift card is just to get the person to walk through the door in the first place, what about the graduated discount gift card where they could save up to 50%? How would you like to give someone a gift card worth $500 but pay only $250 for it? And you can see with a $50 gift card, we're only going to give them a 5% discount, but still they can buy a $50 gift card and it only costs them $47.50. They've saved some money. It's a bargain. If they're willing to buy a $100 gift card, we'll give them 10% off. $150 gift card, we'll give them 15% off. If they can buy a $200 gift card, we'll give them 20% off. And so on up the line in these increments until you get to the $500 gift card that they only paid $250 for. Now let's talk about, is this a compelling offer? Well, the dynamic, why do people buy gift cards in the first place? A, it's easy and convenient, and B, they don't know what to get the person. And now they can give that person a gift card, and the person can get whatever it is they want. This seems like a great solution for some people. But again, I can't get a bargain on it. Now you're offering to give them a bargain. It gets people to at least walk through the door. They walk through the door, you have the opportunity to sell them all kinds of additional stuff on top of the gift card. Stuff for them, stuff for other people that they do know how to buy for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So, and you know, a 5% discount, a 10%, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35% discounts, whatever they happen to be. In many cases, you're going to do that for the holidays anyway. Or you're going to construct a value-added offer anyway, where you're going to have to sacrifice that kind of money. Now, how many people buy $500 gift cards? Not that many. So even though you're offering 200 or 50% off on that $500 gift card, you're really at very little risk that somebody's actually going to buy it. And if they do, so what? Because here are the other dynamics of gift cards. When people have gift cards, they often come in and spend more than the face value of the gift card. Not everybody, of course. Some people come in and only spend the value of the gift card. But looking at the other way, if you give me a $500 gift card and I walk in the store and I see something worth $1,000 that I only have to pay $500 for because I have a $500 gift card, I might make that purchase. And what does that cost you as the retailer? Well, it only costs you $250 in face value, but only $125 in out-of-pocket actual cash because you bought it wholesale and they buy it retail. This is a compelling offer. Now, could you and should you put it in play in your business? I don't see any reason why not. Okay. To me, theoretically at least. Okay. That's the kind of offer that you can make. Why do, oh, I gotta turn the webcam back on. Don't know why that happened. Okay. All right. So this is the kind of thing, if you think it through from the perspective of a customer, that's a pretty nice offer. How can you promote that? Well, what I showed you on the screen was a poster, but could you promote it with a postcard? Sure. Could you do every door direct mail with an offer like that? Why not? Could you combine it with other offers like value adds and discounts on specific products so that you're offering a secondary reason for response? And the answer to that is yes. Okay. Is it something you could promote on radio, TV, newspaper, magazines, or even a billboard? Sure. And in those other kinds of advertising, could you use it as a secondary reason for response, not your primary offer? Absolutely. Could you combine it with one of those catalogs? Sure. Why not? Okay. All right. Now let's go back very briefly. We're running out of time. Let's talk about a couple of other things. How about right now promoting a layaway program? The return of the layaway. Now, if you just say, hey, we have layaway, that's not a compelling offer. If you make the case that one of the great problems that we face in America today is our debt, the government's deep in debt, most people are in debt, people are trying to get out of debt, and now layaway becomes an opportunity for people to get out of the debt cycle. And of course, you'd start promoting that right now, October 1st, right? Because you want to give them time to pay it off. Or you could also do a reverse layaway program. Do you have a financing program that's 12 months, same as cash? Well, what's the difference between that and a layaway? There is some. They have to have approved credit. Layaway, you don't necessarily have to do that. But if you did reverse layaway, the idea is you can take the product right now and we'll put it on a financing program. Well, everybody talks about financing, but very few people talk about reverse layaway and put it in the context of avoiding debt. You see how the presentation of the offer makes a difference compared to the offer itself. Everybody's got a financing program, but do they have a reverse layaway program? You can reframe it, and by so doing, make it far more compelling. Now, final thing I want to talk about is these catalogs that you see from suppliers. And look, that's a common practice, especially in the jewelry business, but also in other businesses as well. Okay, a supplier generates a catalog. Most of these catalogs are terrible. They're absolutely terrible. They look bad. They fail to have any selling power whatsoever, but they work anyway. Why do they work anyway? Because it's Christmas, for crying out loud, and people are going to buy anyway. Okay. The challenge with these catalogs is manifold, and I guess there isn't a tremendous amount of point in me decrying all their faults and weaknesses. But I guess I will anyway for just a minute. And that is, look, the biggest challenge that they've got, despite their layout problems and all the rules they break in the world of cataloging, the biggest problem that they make is that they do not convey the value of the product. They'll show you a ring and they'll put a price next to it. They'll have a one-line description of that ring. You know, this is a 14 karat gold, 1 carat diamond solitaire, or this is, whatever the name of the design is, with the total carat weight of the stones that are in the design, and that's it. And they give a price. The average customer does not have a clue whether that's a good value or not. And the problem it presents to you as the independent jeweler is that the chain store is putting out their own catalog. And their catalog's bad too, but they have a price for a similar product, and it's probably a similar price to yours. Okay? Much better off as you look at these various programs to figure out how much control you have over that catalog. Do you have control of the front page or the cover of the catalog? Do you have control of the back page? Can you put some of your products in there? Those kinds of things, and determine if you don't have any control whatsoever, it still may be worth doing, candidly, because you may not have anything else better other than the things that I've already mentioned to you. But just be careful about buying into those things. And I promise you this, I've been doing this long enough now that I think for next year, I'm going to try to come up with my own catalog program. I'll probably come up with it on 2 levels. I'll probably try to come up with a catalog program that where you can put in your own content, and it's exclusively your content. And I'll probably come up with a catalog program that I do with a jewelry supplier, a vendor, where it's my catalog and their products, and see if we can't outperform some of these other things that have been done in the past. Okay, quick review for you because we're out of time. Number 1, recognize that you've got the power of creativity and flexibility. You can do things that your competition cannot and will not do. And that gives you an advantage. So you begin to think more creatively. Number 2, think like a customer as you craft your offers. I can't say it enough. Think like a customer as you craft your offers, and lean in favor of value adds instead of discounts. But they still must be enough of a value add that it's compelling and will make people get out of their chairs, jump in the car, drive across town in traffic to come see you. That's huge. And number 3 is, how do you present these offers? And that can be in the form of your advertising, and it can also be in the form of who you present the advertising to. In other words, if you have an opportunity to sell to your existing customers, you absolutely should. Some kind of private sale is an absolute should take place for you this holiday season. Use some of your free consultation as a member of the BizKaboom Alliance to build those kinds of programs. We will help you do it, but you've got to initiate the contact and ask for the help. And then last but not least, for you jewelers in particular, take advantage of jewelersmarketinggems.com. We're in the process of redoing the website. I think the new version could be out as early as October 10th, but it's functional as it is. And if you have questions about anything you see there, shoot me an email and I'll get in touch with you and we can talk about the specifics of how to apply any given promotion to your specific situation. Look, the things I've talked to you today really to a large degree are just common sense, but we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day business of our business that we fail to think about those things. Marketing becomes, in some cases, something that you have to do on an emergency basis, and these things don't get thought through well. And if you haven't thought them through well, and then your promotions don't work and your advertising doesn't work, the natural inclination is for you to blame the media or the agency or whoever instead of blaming yourself for not having thought these things through. The tips I've given you today are absolutely vital to your success as you promote your business during the holiday season. I apologize that I haven't had time for any questions. I will stay on the air for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat section and write them in. For those of you who need to bail, I fully understand that. For those of you who have some questions, please feel free to type them in, and I will I'll stay on for a couple of minutes and make sure that I answer them for you. Okay. Otherwise, we'll see you in a month, where much of your planning and your efforts for the holidays will need to be in the execution mode. Take care, everybody. Okay, here's a question on the gift card promotions. What if you get a large number of people who take you up on big items that are 35% and greater discounted? That could happen, and you want it to happen, because once again, they come in on the gift card, they buy the gift cards, they come in to buy the gift card. They also may buy other stuff while they're there. It's your job as a professional salesperson to upsell and add-on sell. But one thing that I didn't mention was the principle of breakage. And there is a large percentage of gift cards that never get redeemed. Now, true, if somebody buys a $500 gift card, that's likely to be redeemed. If they buy a $50, $100, $150 gift card, a large number of those may not be redeemed. That's called breakage. And of course, for everyone that is purchased but not redeemed, that's pure profit for you. Now, the truth of the matter is your accountant will tell you may have to carry that as a liability on your books for some period of time. But so what? Okay. The idea of breakage will reduce the overall contribution you have to make to the discounts on the gift card. So if your average gift card, for example, is $200 on the program that I showed you, you're giving them 20% off on that. Okay, so they're buying for $160. But if 10% of the people that buy the gift cards you never see that gift card redeemed, that is 10% additional in your pocket. So instead of 20% off, the whole promotion overall only costs you 10%. You see what I mean? That can make it even more profitable than selling it retail in some cases. So if you have a high breakage rate, you may actually, by virtue of the fact that you sold a lot of these things, even though some of them are redeemed, if your breakage rate is high, you may make better money than if you had sold things at full retail, or excuse me, not sold them all at full retail, but generated additional business and sold at a 10% overall discount. You may actually come out ahead. Anything else? Okay, doesn't look like it. So I want to thank you for joining us on this Wednesday webinar for members of the BizKaboom Alliance, and we will see you next time. In the meantime, good luck in all of your efforts to get more customers who will pay you more money more often, the fastest, easiest, most cost-effective ways possible. Take care, everybody.